At 83 years old, Carl Jung made a shocking revelation that changed everything we thought we knew about aging and sexuality. He said that when older adults lose their sexual appetite, it's not their bodies failing them, it's their minds disconnecting from their deepest source of life energy. Before we dive into this life-changing discovery, let me ask you something personal. Are you over 60 and feeling like that passionate fire from your younger days has somehow dimmed? Drop a comment below and tell me. I read every single one, and your story might help someone else who's struggling with the same feelings. You know, there's something heartbreaking that happens to so many people after 60. They start believing that their best days are behind them. They wake up feeling tired, even after a full night's sleep. Their joints ache in ways they never did before. They look in the mirror and barely recognize the vibrant person they used to be. And when it comes to intimacy, physical desire, that spark that once made them feel so alive, many feel like it's just gone forever. I've spoken with thousands of people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and the story is always the same. I used to feel so passionate about life, they tell me. I used to wake up excited about the day ahead. I used to feel attractive, desirable, full of energy. But now, their voices trail off, filled with a sadness that goes much deeper than just physical changes. It's the sadness of feeling forgotten by life itself. But here's what Carl Jung discovered in his own later years, and what he spent decades teaching others. This loss of vitality, this dimming of passion, this feeling that your sexual self has somehow disappeared. It's not inevitable. It's not a natural part of aging that you just have to accept. Jung lived to be 85, and right up until his final years, he maintained not just his intellectual sharpness, but his physical vitality, his emotional depth, and yes, his capacity for passion and intimacy. Jung understood something that modern medicine is only beginning to grasp. The connection between our psychological well-being and our physical health becomes even more crucial as we age. When we feel purposeless, when we believe our best years are over, when we disconnect from our bodies and our desires, we literally begin to shut down systems that keep us vibrant and alive. The sexual energy that Jung wrote about isn't just about physical intimacy. It's about our fundamental life force, our creativity, our zest for existence itself. Think about it this way. When you were younger, feeling attractive and desirable wasn't just about romance, was it? It was about feeling alive, feeling like you mattered, feeling like you had something valuable to offer the world. That energy connected to every part of your life, your work, your friendships, your hobbies, your dreams. Jung called this our libido, but he meant something much broader than just sexual desire. He meant our essential life energy, the force that makes us want to get up in the morning and engage with the world out now. I want you to pause for a moment and think about your own life right now. When was the last time you felt that kind of aliveness? When was the last time you looked forward to something with genuine excitement? When was the last time you felt attractive, not necessarily to others, but to yourself? When was the last time you felt like your best years might actually still be ahead of you, not behind you? If it's been a while, you're not alone. And more importantly, it's not too late. Jung's revolutionary insight was that the second half of life, what he called the afternoon of life, isn't about decline. It's about a completely different kind of growth, a deeper kind of wisdom, and yes, a more profound kind of passion. But accessing this requires understanding how your mind and body work together in ways that most people never learn. Jung noticed something fascinating in his patients who aged successfully. They didn't just maintain their physical health through exercise and good nutrition, though those were important. They maintained what he called their connection to the unconscious, their dreams, their creativity, their sense of mystery and wonder about life. They stayed curious. They continued growing, emotionally and spiritually. They embraced, rather than feared, the changes that came with age. And here's the crucial part. These people also maintained their physical vitality, their energy, and yes, their capacity for passion and intimacy. Jung saw the direct connection. When people stayed psychologically alive, their bodies followed suit. When they gave up on growth and possibility, their bodies began to shut down too. So what made the difference? What did Jung discover about maintaining not just mental sharpness, but physical vitality and sexual energy, well into the later decades of life? Over the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you 4 specific principles that Jung not only taught, but lived by himself. These aren't just philosophical concepts, they're practical approaches that combine Jung's deep psychological insights with modern understanding of nutrition, exercise, and healthy aging. The first principle Jung discovered comes from something he observed about his own body as he aged. He noticed that when he disconnected from physical sensation, when he started treating his body like an old machine that was wearing out, everything began to decline faster. But when he approached his body with curiosity and respect, when he listened to what it needed rather than what it used to do, something remarkable happened. His energy returned, his mood improved, and yes, his capacity for physical pleasure and intimacy flourished again. Jung used to say that the body is the temple of the mature soul, not the young soul, the mature soul. He believed that as we age, we actually become more capable of experiencing profound physical pleasure, not less, because we've learned to slow down, to pay attention, to savor rather than rush. But this only happens when we stay connected to our bodies through gentle, consistent movement. Now, I'm not talking about the intense workouts you might have done in your 20s or 30s. Jung's approach was completely different. Every morning, well into his 80s, Jung would begin his day with what he called body communion. He would spend 10 to 15 minutes doing very gentle movements, stretching, breathing deeply, and simply noticing how his body felt that day. Some days it was stiff, some days it felt stronger. He didn't judge it or try to force it to be different. He just listened and moved accordingly. This practice wasn't just about physical fitness. Jung understood that when we lose touch with our bodies, we lose touch with our capacity for pleasure, for sensuality, for feeling alive and attractive. Think about it. When was the last time you really paid attention to how your body feels? Not the aches and pains, but the actual sensations of being alive. The feeling of your feet on the ground, the sensation of your breath filling your lungs, the warmth of sunlight on your skin. For Jung, this daily practice of gentle movement became a form of meditation, a way of reconnecting with his physical self as a source of wisdom rather than just a collection of problems. He particularly loved walking, but not aggressive goal-oriented walking. He would take long, slow walks through the mountains near his home in Switzerland, stopping frequently to observe nature, to breathe deeply, to simply be present in his body. Research has now confirmed what Jung intuitively understood. Gentle, consistent movement, just 20 to 30 minutes a day, can dramatically improve circulation, energy levels, mood, and yes, sexual function in older adults. The key word here is gentle. Your body at 60, 70, or 80 is capable of incredible things, but it needs to be approached with wisdom and respect. So here's what I want you to try for the next 7 days. Each morning, before you do anything else, spend just 10 minutes moving your body gently. This could be simple stretching in bed, walking around your home or garden, or even just sitting and doing arm and shoulder rolls while breathing deeply. The goal isn't to get your heart rate up or to push through any discomfort. The goal is simply to wake up your body's natural pleasure systems, to remind your nervous system that you're alive, and that being alive feels good. Notice how this affects not just your energy, but your mood, your confidence, your sense of attractiveness.
Jung believed that when we treat our bodies with respect and attention, they respond by making us feel more vibrant and desirable. Try it for a week and let me know in the comments what you notice. I'm genuinely curious about your experience. The second principle Jung discovered was equally revolutionary, and it had to do with food. But not in the way you might expect. Jung wasn't interested in restrictive diets or complicated nutrition plans. Instead, he focused on what he called foods of passion. He believed that certain foods could literally awaken dormant energy in the body, particularly the kind of energy that makes us feel alive, attractive, and interested in physical pleasure. Jung had a daily ritual that might surprise you. Every afternoon, around 3 o'clock, he would have what he called his pleasure break. This consisted of a small piece of very dark chocolate, a handful of nuts, usually walnuts or almonds, and sometimes a few berries if they were in season. This wasn't just a snack for Jung. It was a deliberate practice of awakening his senses and nourishing what he saw as the body's natural capacity for pleasure. You see, Jung understood something that science is now confirming about these particular foods. Dark chocolate contains compounds that literally increase blood flow and stimulate the production of endorphins and serotonin, the same chemicals your body produces when you're feeling attracted to someone or when you're experiencing physical pleasure. The healthy fats in nuts support hormone production and brain function. Berries are packed with antioxidants that improve circulation and energy. But here's the crucial part. Jung didn't just eat these foods mindlessly while doing other things. He made eating them a sensual experience. He would savor the chocolate, slowly, really tasting it, enjoying the texture and the way it made him feel. He would chew the nuts deliberately, appreciating their richness. He treated this simple daily ritual as a way of reconnecting with his body's capacity for pleasure and satisfaction. This practice served multiple purposes. It nourished his body with foods that genuinely support sexual health and energy. It gave him a daily experience of physical pleasure and satisfaction, and it reinforced his belief that his body was still capable of feeling good, of experiencing desire, of being a source of joy rather than just problems. Modern research has validated Jung's intuitive approach. Dark chocolate with at least 70% cacao content has been shown to improve circulation, reduce stress hormones, and yes, increase libido in both men and women over 60. Nuts like walnuts and almonds provide healthy fats that support hormone production and brain health. Berries, particularly blueberries and pomegranates, contain compounds that improve blood flow and energy levels. But perhaps more importantly, Jung's approach of making food a sensual, pleasurable experience rather than just fuel helped maintain his connection to his body as a source of pleasure. When we rush through meals, when we eat without paying attention, when we view food purely as medicine or restriction, we disconnect from one of our most basic sources of physical pleasure and satisfaction. I want you to try Jung's pleasure break for the next week. Every day, preferably in the afternoon when your energy might naturally dip, take 5 minutes to mindfully enjoy a small piece of dark chocolate, a few nuts, and maybe some berries. Don't eat while watching TV or checking your phone. Just sit quietly, savor the flavors and textures, and notice how this simple practice affects not just your energy, but your mood and your connection to physical pleasure. The third principle Jung embraced came from his lifelong fascination with what he called the wisdom of the earth. Jung believed that nature had already provided everything we needed to maintain vitality and passion throughout our lives, but that modern life had disconnected us from these natural sources of energy. In his later years, Jung became deeply interested in traditional remedies and plant medicines that had been used for centuries to support vitality and sexual health. Jung was particularly drawn to 2 plants that he incorporated into his daily routine, maca root and ginseng. But this wasn't based on folklore or wishful thinking. Jung approached these remedies with the same scientific curiosity he brought to psychology. He studied their effects carefully, both in traditional literature and through his own personal experience. What he discovered was that these plants seemed to work not by forcing the body to do something unnatural, but by supporting the body's own natural systems for energy and desire. Maca, which Jung learned about from his studies of indigenous cultures, particularly fascinated him. This root vegetable from the high mountains of Peru had been used for over 2,000 years to support energy, mood, and sexual function. Jung noted in his personal journals that after several weeks of taking maca regularly, he experienced not just increased physical energy, but what he described as a return of that fundamental life force that makes everything feel more interesting and engaging. What Jung intuitively understood, and what research now confirms, is that maca works by supporting the endocrine system. the network of glands that produce hormones. As we age, hormone production naturally declines, but this decline can be much more gradual and less dramatic when the endocrine system is properly supported. Maca doesn't artificially spike hormone levels like synthetic treatments might. Instead, it helps the body maintain its own natural hormone production more effectively. Jung typically took maca in powder form, mixed into a warm drink in the morning. He found that this not only provided the physical benefits, but also gave him a sense of connection to ancient wisdom traditions that honored the body's natural capacity for vitality throughout life. For Jung, taking maca wasn't just about the physical effects, it was a daily reminder that his body was still capable of energy, desire, and pleasure. Ginseng became Jung's other daily ally in maintaining vitality. He was drawn to Asian ginseng particularly, which had been used in traditional Chinese medicine for thousands of years to support what they called Jing, fundamental life energy. Jung noticed that ginseng seemed to work differently than maca, where maca gave him sustained energy throughout the day. Ginseng provided what he described as mental clarity and emotional resilience, qualities that he found essential for maintaining interest in life, relationships, and physical intimacy. The way ginseng works is fascinating and perfectly aligned with Jung's understanding of the mind-body connection. Ginseng is what researchers call an adaptogen, meaning it helps the body better respond to stress. Chronic stress, Jung observed, was one of the primary killers of sexual desire and vitality in older adults. When people feel constantly worried, overwhelmed, or depleted, their bodies simply don't have energy left over for pleasure and intimacy. Jung found that ginseng helped him maintain what he called psychological elasticity, the ability to respond to challenges without becoming depleted, the capacity to remain curious and engaged even when facing difficulties. This psychological state, he discovered, was absolutely essential for maintaining sexual vitality. When the mind feels strong and resilient, the body follows suit. Now, I want to be very clear here. Jung wasn't suggesting that these plants are magic bullets, or that everyone should immediately start taking them. What Jung discovered was that when these natural remedies were combined with the other practices, gentle movement, mindful nutrition, and what we're about to discuss, they could provide significant support for the body's natural systems. But he always emphasized the importance of working with a healthcare provider, especially for people taking other medications. If you're interested in exploring these options, I encourage you to research them thoroughly and discuss them with your doctor. Maca is generally very safe for most people, typically taken in doses of 1 to 3 grams per day. Ginseng requires a bit more caution, especially for people with high blood pressure or heart conditions, but for many people, it can provide remarkable benefits for energy and mental clarity. What I find most inspiring about Jung's approach is that he never viewed these remedies as a way to return to his younger self. Instead, he saw them as tools for becoming the fullest, most vibrant version of his older self. He understood that vitality at 70 or 80 looks different than vitality at 30, but it can be just as powerful and perhaps even more meaningful. Chatui. Fourth and final principle Jung discovered might be the most important of all, and it had everything to do with what he called the art of mature intimacy. Jung realized that one of the primary reasons older adults lose interest in physical intimacy isn't because their bodies are incapable, but because they're still trying to relate to their partners in ways that worked when they were younger. Jung observed that young people's sexuality is often driven by novelty, intensity, and physical sensation. But mature sexuality, he discovered, has the potential to be far richer because it can include emotional depth, spiritual connection, and the profound intimacy that comes from truly knowing another person. The problem is that most people never learn how to access this deeper level of intimate connection. In his own marriage to Emma, Jung noticed that their relationship actually became more passionate in their later years, not less. But this happened only after they learned to communicate in ways they had never done when they were younger. They began sharing not just their daily experiences, but their dreams, their fears about aging, their hopes for the time they had left together, their memories of their life together, and their evolving understanding of what it meant to love someone over decades. Jung called this practice emotional archaeology. the process of continuously discovering new depths in a long-term relationship. Instead of assuming they knew everything about each other, Jung and Emma began approaching each other with the curiosity they might bring to meeting someone new. They asked questions they had never asked. They shared thoughts and feelings they had been too busy or too scared to share when they were younger. This emotional intimacy, Jung discovered, created a foundation for physical intimacy that was actually more satisfying than what they had experienced in their younger years. When two people feel truly seen, truly understood, truly appreciated for who they are now, not who they used to be, their bodies respond with renewed interest in physical connection and pleasure. Jung developed specific practices for cultivating this deeper intimacy. One was what he called the daily check-in, where he and Emma would spend 15 minutes each evening simply sharing how they were feeling, what they were thinking about, what they had noticed or appreciated about each other that day. Another was what he called memory weaving, where they would regularly share favorite memories from their life together, but also talk about how those experiences looked different to them now than they had at the time. These practices transformed not just Jung's relationship with Emma, but his entire understanding of what intimacy could be in the later decades of life. He began to see that mature love had advantages that young love simply couldn't access. Young love is often anxious, uncertain, driven by need and insecurity. Mature love, Jung discovered, could be based on genuine appreciation, deep knowledge, and the profound comfort that comes from having weathered life's storms together. But Jung also understood that this level of intimacy required courage. It meant being willing to be vulnerable with someone who had seen you at your worst as well as your best. It meant talking about fears and desires that you might never have voiced before. It meant admitting that you still had needs, still had dreams, still had parts of yourself that you wanted to explore and express. For couples who had been together for decades, Jung recommended what he called the rediscovery practice. This involved spending time together as if you were dating again, but with the wisdom and freedom that comes with age. Instead of hiding parts of yourself to appear more attractive, the goal was to reveal parts of yourself that you had never felt safe sharing before. Instead of trying to impress, the goal was to be genuinely known. Jung noticed that when couples began practicing this deeper level of emotional intimacy, their physical relationship naturally followed. Bodies that had seemed tired or uninterested began responding with renewed energy and desire. The key was creating emotional safety and genuine connection first, then allowing physical intimacy to emerge from that foundation. For people who were single, Jung had different but equally powerful advice. He believed that the relationship with yourself was the foundation for all other relationships, and that developing a deeper, more loving relationship with your own aging self was essential for attracting and maintaining intimate connections with others. This meant treating yourself with the same curiosity, patience, and appreciation that you would bring to a beloved partner. Jung developed what he called the self-appreciation practice, where he would spend a few minutes each day acknowledging something he appreciated about his aging self. Not something from his past, but something present. His growing wisdom, his increasing capacity for patience, his deeper understanding of what really mattered in life. He found that this practice not only improved his mood and confidence, but actually made him more attractive to others. Now let me share something that Jung discovered that might surprise you. He found that people who maintained vitality and attractiveness into their later years weren't the ones who tried to look or act younger. They were the ones who fully embraced the unique gifts that come with age, the wisdom, the freedom from caring so much about others' opinions, the clarity about what truly matters, the capacity for deeper love and more meaningful connection. Jung used to say that the afternoon of life should not be governed by the programs of the morning. What he meant was that trying to live at 70, the same way you lived at 30, was not just futile, but it missed the incredible opportunities that come with age. The vitality available to you now is different from the vitality you had when you were younger, but it can be just as powerful and far more satisfying. Think about the freedom you have now that you didn't have when you were younger. Freedom from many of the responsibilities that consumed your earlier years. Freedom from the need to prove yourself, or climb ladders, or accumulate achievements. Freedom to focus on relationships, experiences, and pleasures that truly matter to You. Freedom to be exactly who you are without apology. This freedom, Jung discovered, could be incredibly attractive and energizing. When people stop trying to be someone they're not, when they embrace their authentic selves with confidence and joy, they naturally become more vibrant and appealing. Not despite their age, but because of the wisdom and self-acceptance that age can bring. So here's what I want you to understand as we finish our time together today. The loss of vitality, energy, and passion that so many people experience after 60 is not inevitable. It's not a natural part of aging that you just have to accept. Jung lived proof that it's possible to maintain and even increase your capacity for pleasure, intimacy, and joy throughout your entire life. But this requires a different approach than you might have used when you were younger. It requires treating your body as a wise friend rather than a failing machine. It requires nourishing yourself with foods that support pleasure and vitality. It requires being open to the natural remedies that can support your body's own systems. And most importantly, it requires developing the kind of deep, authentic relationships with others and with yourself that create the emotional foundation for physical vitality. Jung's final insight was perhaps his most profound. He said that the second half of life is not about decline, but about ripening. Like a fruit that becomes sweeter as it matures, humans have the potential to become more loving, more wise, more capable of joy and satisfaction as they age. But this only happens when we understand how to support both our psychological and physical well-being in ways that honor who we are now, not who we used to be. I want to leave you with Jung's own words about the possibilities that exist in the afternoon of life. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And the second half of life is when we finally have the wisdom and freedom to fully embrace this privilege. Your best years don't have to be behind you. Your capacity for passion, for joy, for deep satisfaction with life doesn't have to diminish with age. You have the power to wake up tomorrow feeling more excited about life than you have in years. You have the ability to reconnect with your body as a source of pleasure rather than just problems. You have the opportunity to experience intimacy and love at levels you never could have imagined when you were younger. If this message has resonated with you, if you're feeling inspired to reclaim your vitality and passion, I want you to know that you're not alone in this journey. There's an entire community of people who are discovering that their 60s, 70s, and 80s can be the most fulfilling decades of their lives. Leave a heart in the comments if you're ready to embrace this adventure. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. And subscribe to this channel because we're just getting started on this journey of discovering how incredible the second half of life can be. Remember, you're not getting older, you're getting riper, and the sweetest fruit is always worth the wait.